Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon at the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service, jbiztechvalley.com, and now the columnist for the Jewish Press.
I have a column called Albany Beat, and it's rewarding to show how government relates to the Jewish community or doesn't, as the case may be. So this is really special. I really enjoy the Jewish Press. But on today's show, we are the Jewish View, and there aren't that many Jewish lobbyists at the Capitol or Jewish heads of associations or trade organizations. But we have one, Gerry Geist. He's the head of the executive director of the Association of Towns. And welcome to the Jewish View.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here today.
And Gerry, what's your legislative agenda? What issues are you focusing on this year?
Well, first of all, I'm the executive director of the Association of Towns, and there are 932 towns in the state of New York, and they range in quite a diversity from 34 people in Red House, New York, in Western New York, and to 800,000 people out in Long Island in the town of Hempstead.
So what defines a town? Like Bethlehem, that's where I'm from,
That's
right
a town.
outside of Albany, is a town, not a city. So what defines what a town is? It's not obviously, like you just said, population.
No, it's historical. So villages and cities are created by certain state authorities, and towns were here before. So there's no dynamic as to how a town is by size.
Why is a town set up differently with town supervisor and councilman as opposed to villages and cities, which are mayoral and common council or city council?
Well, basically, it's from in the statute. We have a town law statute that tells us how we are supposed to be.
But what was the origin of that? Do you know?
I guess it comes from, I would say, Old English law, and the towns have been around longest than anybody in the state. So we have I guess a long history. But you asked about our agenda, and local government, we believe, is the best government because it's the closest to the people. We have the most interactions with the citizenry. We deliver the most services directly to the people. So we are concerned about unfunded mandates that continue to come down from Albany in this era of the tax cap and then now the tax freeze. And we want to help governments able to continue to deliver the best of services that the residents want to have and stay under the ambit of all these of new regulations.
Are you able to consolidate services with villages, state, cities? I mean, because, for example, in the town of Bethlehem, as Rabbi Simon mentioned, you might go down a road and the speed limit will change because it went from a town road to a state road to another municipal road, and all of a sudden, you're getting caught in a speed trap because you didn't, it's the same road, it's one lane each way, and all of a sudden, for some unknown reason, the speed limit changed, but and also plowing and snow plowing and things like that, where they have to, some snow plows pick up their plow because they don't plow a road that's not under their jurisdiction.
Yeah, that's a great point. A couple of things. Because of the vagaries of state law, we have some of these issues. For example, I live in the town of North Castle back in Westchester County, and we had one road that went through two towns. And because our neighboring town, Newcastle, was considered a suburban town, they were able to regulate the speed on their road, so they had a different speed limit. We didn't have that right because we were just a regular town. And villages and cities have the right to regulate speed limits, but we don't. So we've always called for someone looking at these regulations and trying to make them so they're equal for everybody.
Uniform.
Yeah, uniform, absolutely. So towns, it's a difficult thing because we're always facing these obstacles that we're trying to modernize and to make uniform, as you said.
Now, town justices don't have to be lawyers, is that correct?
That's correct, but before we answer that,
Yes,
you had asked me
sure.
about the consolidation thing.
Okay, yes.
Towns have been consolidating and shared service program for years.
Okay.
Because why? Because it was good, efficient businesses. You'll hear about highway people plowing state and county roads or highway plowing school roads, and they've been having these shared intermunicipal agreements for years. But so there's this new notion that we must do this, but we've been doing it all along, and there are obstacles by state law that prevent other things from happening. So sometimes, in my town, for example, I always tell this story, we wanted to do a wash bay garage for school buses and highway vehicles where they could get the salt and the grime off the vehicles during the winter months.
Sure.
So the town board thought it was a great idea. We would save taxpayers money on both school and town side to have a shared service, but the voters in the school side voted it down. So here you had a situation where the best intentions, yet it couldn't happen. So if you look historically about what towns have done, we're always interested in trying to economize and save and to not have duplication of services. So this notion that we're not doing or haven't done it, and which raises an issue, and then we'll go back to the other issue, that under the tax freeze, they only will look back to 2012 for shared service programs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we find fault with that because the recession happened in 2008, and many communities were forced to just do that, find new ways to save money. And so, and people have been doing it for years, so if you had the foresight to do a consolidation program or shared service program back in 2008, why should you be penalized by doing it right before it was a problem? You should be getting credited for that.
Mm-hmm. You're right. So what's the answer when you go up to the Capitol and mention this?
We continue to look for carve-outs and for...
But I'm saying, what's the reaction when you talk to the people in the governor's office or the assembly or the Senate? What do they tell you when...
They want us to find new programs and
they just ignore the issue, they ignore that
They say
part?
they recognize it, but we're looking for new opportunities. So, but we keep reminding that, you know, you shouldn't be penalized for having done good quality, saving taxpayers money right along.
Can you sue the state to make them, to
No.
force them to do that? No?
No, we can't.
Okay.
Can't do that. So, we always have to be constantly reminding everybody the quality of services that our folks provide on a daily basis in an efficient way.
Now, you live in the town of Newcastle?
North Castle.
North Castle.
My home is in Westchester, North Castle, and I work during the week here in Albany.
Mm-hmm. So who are your assemblymen and senators?
My state senator is George Latimer,
Okay.
who I went to high school with, actually,
did you really?
in Mount Vernon, New York.
And you look so much younger.
No, he looks great. And my assemblyman is David Buchwald.
Uh-huh.
So I've known them both quite a
Well,
long
they've
time.
both been guests on the show here, so
They're great
Yeah,
people.
you know.
I'm honored to have them.
very responsive to the community, that's
Oh.
for sure.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've known George since high school, so it's been great.
I guess what Mark is getting at, and just, you know, maybe as just a regular citizen, even though I know I'm a rabbi, but regular citizen also, certain things are just so logical to a voter, and then the government just doesn't get it. You know what I'm saying? Just that kind of,
It's
you know, you're saying, well, why don't you just do it? I mean, you know, it's good for everybody. There's no downside on it. And that's, well, there's obstacles. I guess, Mark, that's what you're
People want to say no for the sake of saying no sometimes, too.
It's frustrating because you think that you have logical arguments, and then sometimes they're, you know, what we think are logical, other people don't think is logical, and so we need to keep promoting ourselves, and hopefully that will change some people's minds down the road.
I thought Mark just was touching on another idea of maybe consolidating villages. He wanted to ask that. You know, you had two little villages. Why can't you have one police department, and that would save, or fire department? Well, at least one dispatch or one salary would take off.
You know, ironically, consolidation, every time it's put to a vote, it seems to always lose. The people always want to have their own identity, their own local, and so, you know, the thing is, we believe in home rule, that it's let the people in their hometown, their home village, their home city decide what's best for them. But, you know, it's always, but that's what we really believe, that home rule, that the people who live in the community should decide. But believe me, that we're always looking for ways to share services. Another example in my town, we had, when I was on the town board, we had a company come to us for advanced life support for people that needed extra immediate care that the volunteer firefighters couldn't do. And it was going to be very costly. So we found a way to do it with 6 other towns, and we created basically a advanced life support district over 6 towns. And we found a way to cut the cost by 50%, but provide the service. Now, the irony of all that is we got it done, and we have this new benefit for the community, but we had to create an ambulance district. So, you know, the governor sometimes talks about too many districts, but is it really about the districts, or is it really about the benefit to the constituents and saving money? In this instance, I think the benefit was worth the creation of that separate district, which, by the way, has no employees or no
cost.
No cost. It's just a district so people can be taxed appropriately.
I wanted to mention, at least to the audience, that that some villages and towns take in the same geographic area.
Well, you know, as you know, a village can only be part of a town.
Part of it, but like Green Island, the village of Green Island, the town of Green Island have the same boundaries.
Well, we have a whole bunch of those in Westchester. We have Scarsdale, Harrison, and Mount Kisco that they call them coterminous village towns.
So that's where I think some of those municipalities could downsize, or could be eliminated. I mean, why have a village that's the same size as the town?
So there's two
just for the sake.
I know that maybe upstate in Galway, you go to the town of Galway and then the village of Galway. So in actuality, what would it be? There's two.
Be the town of Galway. You do away with the village and you keep the town, because the town is a larger entity. They have more elected officials.
Well, you know, the thing is, it's like I said, it's really up to the people in those individual communities to decide what's best for them.
And we're just talking philosophically.
No, I understand that. But historically, these things have happened that way, and people can change it if they choose to want to do it. But I don't think the state should mandate that. Let the people decide. If they want to have a village and a town, they should have that right. So we don't advocate for...
You don't sway everybody if they want it. They want to be individualized and have a little more tax because of that. And it's a little bit inefficient.
They may not even look at it as inefficient. They may think this is the best thing for them, and that's what they like. And
well, it's sort of like having 2 parents, and if one parent says no, and you go to the other parent and says get the yes answer. I mean, so if you don't, the village doesn't give you the right answer. The town.
Well, that's not necessarily so. Like
but it's possible.
Well, but they each have pretty much authority over their own area, but really, like I said, it's up to the people to decide.
So, do you? So, I was asking about town justices.
Yes.
That they don't have to be attorneys.
Yeah, if you recall, there was a big story in the New York Times a few years back. There was like multiple days about the town justice system. And once again, that's one of the vagaries of the old.
They didn't like it. What was the gist? I didn't see.
Well, they were pointing out that not everybody had to be an attorney.
Right.
And they
didn't like it. Mean like that. It was
the Times is saying didn't like it.
Yeah,
they thought everybody should be
authorized attorney, a licensed
But you know,
attorney.
Everybody who's a state magistrate has to
go through coursework.
Goes through coursework, and they have to be. And I believe that it works. And
because you could be a farmer, you could be a mortician, you could be an ambulance. You can be and the tow truck driver. There was a case in Orange County. Remember Mary McPhillips?
Yes.
Okay, her predecessor, when she was the county coroner, and the way she won the county coroner seat is because she had the goods on her predecessor, the incumbent, that he was a tow truck driver. So whenever he went to a scene to tag the toe of the deceased, he would tow the car away, and then he would bill for the tow. And she thought that was unseemly. So now, her family owned the funeral home. So whenever there was a death, they went to the McPhillips funeral home.
You know, in a state as large as us, you're going to have all sorts of stories.
I know, and that's what's fun about it.
That's what's great about it. But I can tell you that you can just find great stories about people who are, like you said, non-lawyers who really run a great court, as much as an attorney should. So the data doesn't prove that it's not working. And what the data does show that it does work, that, that our justice courts really work well.
It's a little like the Wizard of Oz, you know. You have a certificate, that makes you show you a college degree that you're very smart, and a person with a college degree must be stupid, you know, which, like you say, it just doesn't work out that
And,
way.
if you think about it, they go to courses, and if there are criminal things in a justice court, they have the district attorney there, so it's pretty orderly. It works.
And what's your background?
I'm a practice. I'm a licensed attorney.
Oh, you okay?
And
And
I,
you said you ran for office, that you were on the town board?
yeah, I was on the town board in my town, North Castle, for 24 years. I ran
And-
6 times.
Oh, and what party?
I'm a Democrat.
Oh, okay. Very
Um,
good. Is that a Democratic town? I don't know, I'm just...
Not when I started.
Not when you started.
I had an interesting story. I won the election by 1 vote, and they called me landslide. And I'll never forget, my wife was pregnant with our 2nd child, and the baby was due in January. And I said, look, let me run. I'll be here for the baby, and
done
election's in
November,
November.
You didn't expect to win, is that
And
it?
well, no, I thought it'll be all over in November.
Oh, okay.
So the story goes that we were in this very tight election, went to 6 courts, and the baby came before the election. So the headline
Before
of the
November, you mean?
well, no, the baby came in January, but
Right.
my election wasn't decided till
yeah.
February. So the headline in the local newspaper was Geist wins Leslie, the baby came first. You know?
Yeah.
So that's, and they called me landslide. So it wasn't a very democratic town, but I knocked on a lot of doors. I knocked on 2,500 doors.
Really? That's a lot. Takes a lot of work to get elected.
My family was active in politics. My father was a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first chairman of the Westchester County Board of Legislators. So we had politics in the blood, so to speak.
And what made you come over to be the head of an association after that?
Well, I had the good fortune, as I said, of being a town board member for 24 years, and I got involved with the Association of Towns right away. My father had told me these associations are great resources. One of the great things our association does is we help educate and train local officials. That's really one of our missions. And because we get all sorts of inquiries and people need technical assistance, all these new regulations. So I got involved and I learned about the advocacy programs, the training, the education, and I got to meet everybody. And I got involved with the association and I became its president. And then when the former executive director decided to retire, he asked me to take it on. And
That was Mr. Haber?
Mr. Haber.
Yeah.
So it's always been I love the work of the association. I like working with the people.
But
We
you
have a
didn't
great
want to do it
staff.
for free, so now you're getting paid to do it.
I'm getting
It's
paid.
a
When you-
full-time job?
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
yeah, more than a full-time job. But
So-
when you're president, you don't get paid, so
No.
now that you want to...
But you know
Do you
what?
practice law also, or?
Well, when I can, if it's, but I need to, make sure our association, that's first and foremost. But I will tell you this, that it was so important to me that Jeff's work carried on. And that
Jeff Haber.
Jeff Haber, and that the great organization that he created, I wanted to see it continue to grow, modernize, and make sure that all the good work that he did, he was there, I think, 27 years or something.
Forever.
And we wanted to make sure that his good work, and the fact that he reached out to me, I didn't want to let him down.
Well, I just want to say, you say you're most of the week you're up in Albany here, but first of all, what I would think is if the assemblymen aren't here, what do you do? And do you go like telling all the villages, kind of like, that's why it's good that you're on
Towns,
the Jewish...
towns, not villages, okay.
Sorry, excuse
So,
me.
well-
I'm saying that maybe go around the state and telling them or telling these boards
Well,
what you're up to.
I go around all the state, try to meet with our town officials when I can, but we also do various training schools all over the state. We have finance school going on now. We have planning and zoning school. We have
School
tax
for the board
collectors.
people? I mean,
Yeah,
people
we have
teaching.
we have our main conference in February each year. We invite people to come and get training
In New York City.
in New York City.
Now, you were telling me why, I asked you why in New York City, and you told me an interesting answer.
It's the only place where we can get enough hotel rooms in one location. We
How
get,
many people are you talking
we get about, I don't know, 1,800, 2,000 attendees.
Well, with 932 towns.
932 towns.
You have a lot of attendees.
And you got a lot of attendees, and and we want to keep everybody in one place. It's February, you can't be spread out. And New York City is the only place where we can do it, and it works great. We instituted a certification program for our attendees, so if they take certain courses in certain discipline over a couple of years, they can get a certificate saying they're a certified town official.
So it's the CLE credits? Is
Well, it's the equivalent of it for
yeah.
town officials. We created it.
Oh, good.
Because we feel like if people are going to these conferences and taking the training, they should be recognized for the coursework that they do on finances or planning or zoning. And
Just out of curiosity, and I'm not going to ask you who or what town or whatever, but what do you find overall is the biggest issue that these town officials are lacking when they run for office and then they get into office and they go, oh, I didn't think of that, or I didn't know that, or they come to you for help and they say, I don't want to tell my town supervisor this, or I'm in a hostile environment, maybe they're the only Democrat on a Republican board, so they want to come to you just quietly to find out the lay of the land. What do you find is the biggest problem for a freshman, a newly elected town official?
I think the biggest, and it was for me as well, is trying to understand what you can do in government and what you can't. You can't run government like a private business, and you have to follow the rules, and you have to have transparency, and you just can't say, you're fired and you're hired. So I think the fact that people don't realize that running a government is different from running a business. And
but people do run. When they run, they go, you know what? If this town ran as a business,
right,
and
that's the biggest problem. People think that they can do it that way.
Now, why can't they? I'm asking you.
Because state law mandates you have to do it a certain way. The Comptroller's Office has all sorts of regulations, as you know, for requiring how finances are done and how they're reported, and when monies have to be deposited and collected and all that. So it's good. I mean, I think, and they run great training programs too, the Comptroller's Office. They really do a great job. So I think that's the biggest problem for people getting into town office, not realizing what the requirements are. And that's one of the reasons why we have a newly elected training school each year, so we can make sure when people take office that they have the tools and we can give them answers to questions.
You do it right after the election.
Right after the election.
Unless it's contested and then you don't get in office till February.
Right. But we do that, and we do it all over the state to help train our folks. And that we do find is the most, we want to make sure they get off on the right foot, because as you say, there's lots of questions they come up with.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, what's the weirdest one that you've heard? that just kind of shake your head at, or you use it as an example?
I mean, I can just tell you, this is one of my funniest stories. Okay. We were at highway school, and someone asked the following question about, we have to take care of the town roads, but can we introduce a law to require the Amish in this one area to put diapers on the horses? Mm-hmm. So, that's a funny one, but it shows you the types of questions you can get. You can get all sorts of types of questions. You get questions about how people are seated on the dais at a town board meeting. Do I have to sit here? Do I have to move there? You get all sorts of questions. So that's why we have a great staff and we help give them their answers.
It's interesting because, I wouldn't know, and I am sure most of our viewers wouldn't know that, everybody has an election, and that's obviously the American way, but just, like Mark's saying, yeah, I run a business. Okay, now I want to be a government official. Okay, now you're the government official. And, it takes a little more training, and there's really probably other college courses, even, I guess, political science, but the actual working it is obviously different than Mark saying the theory.
Right.
In theory, how government works, but you got to know this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, and
this is why we have our courses. So one of our courses is how does a town board meeting run, and what can be done, what can't be done.
Do potential candidates take those courses to find out ahead of time?
No.
They're not allowed to? Or?
It just doesn't work that way.
But could they if they wanted to?
Well, Not really. I think you have to be an elected, to take advantage of our courses. But let me just tell you this, that
Because it may discourage you.
another thing that you hear about is someone is a new supervisor,
Right.
and then he doesn't like the highway superintendent who's separately elected,
Right.
and he's trying to tell him, so people sometimes don't understand that even if you're from the business world, now you're a supervisor, you can't just tell the highway superintendent, do that road first, because the highway superintendent is a separately elected individual, or the town clerk, for
That's
example.
right.
So that's, I think, the biggest thing that happens is, well, now I'm elected, now what do I do? And that's what we're here for, to help give you those answers.
And I'll tell you a little, you're not going to be surprised about this, but I know you probably can't say it. Most of the patronage jobs comes out of the highway department.
Well,
I know I'm not asking you to
Yeah.
comment on this because it's very sensitive, but I know that there are a lot of people who want to be highway superintendent because sometimes they have more patronage jobs than the town supervisor in some places.
And that's why the highways aren't going well over here.
No, but that's why they have
I'm just
this
saying.
conflict, but they also have it's also a jumping off point for highway superintendents if they want to do something more, But I saw wasn't there an assemblyman who went to Long Island, left his assembly seat to become a highway superintendent on Long Island?
Oh, I don't know about
It was
that.
a couple of years ago that there was an assemblyman.
Better job.
A better job.
Like you say, no one could talk back to you right there.
But speaking about roads, one of the things that we're very concerned about is the $5 billion settlement funds.
Surplus.
Well, it's not really a surplus; it's the settlement fund that the Attorney General.
One shot, yeah.
And we've been advocating that money should be a great deal of it should be reinvested in our roads, bridges, culverts, to help us rebuild our infrastructure around the state. And I know we're all very concerned about that because after the last two horrible winters, we need help.
The salt just rips everything.
Well, no, it's Hurricane Lee and Sandy and all of the, I mean, look at what in Albany County, in the hill towns, they're suffering out there because it really shifted the river, the streams, and also in Schoharie County, Pete Lopez has been, the assemblyman there has been after the FEMA to, regrade the streams so they could run more efficiently.
It's very important because under the tax cap, the opportunity to raise taxes to do this is not there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're asking now. The state has this one time.
Wasn't it taken care of in the budget, or again, just the basic story?
In the budget, the governor and the state legislature allocated the money, but it didn't go as far.
Right.
They spent it already then.
Well, we're hoping that we can address it.
Right. And now, in just the few minutes we have left, I was just opening the floor to you. Is there something we didn't ask about that you wanted to talk about and mention?
Well, I just think that it's always good to be reminded of the dedication and the hard work that local officials do on an everyday basis. And that what's great about town government is that when people have a problem, they can call, they can walk in, and they have that direct contact with someone who's from their neighborhood, their town, their kids go to school together. And I really think that's a great byproduct of our system. And I love going around the state meeting town officials and learning about how they do things and every year when I went to the conference in New York, I always came back with a new idea that I could bring back, whether it was getting LCD lights for the parks or learning how a better way to do payroll servicing.
You see, I think potential candidates should be able to take those courses because then they may get a reality check and they might be able to say, you know what, maybe I shouldn't run. Maybe I'm not the best person. Maybe I don't know enough of what I should know. Or maybe you should have a separate class just for potential candidates so they could have a way of dipping their toe in the water. You may get better candidates.
Well, we have a lot of our information up on our website, nytowns.org,
Yeah.
but I will tell you this, we do so many schools throughout the year trying to train just the elected officials and the appointed officials. It's hard.
How many staff do you have?
We have nine people.
Plus you.
Three lawyers. And they work so hard, and they're so dedicated to the work that they do and for the members that we represent.
Well, theoretically, maybe you should just keep it in the on the side, as another idea.
No, we always will welcome ideas.
Because that's the one thing that I find is fascinating is how the poor quality of candidates people just think that they could put their name on a ballot and that, they get elected and then they're like, well, now what do? I didn't think I'd win.
Well,
and believe me, I've heard that more than once. So.
But what Jeff Haber left me was a great staff. And more importantly, he told me the key is making sure you get a staff that's going to stay.
Right.
The longer they stay, everybody's going to feel more comfortable when they deal with your office. Oh, I spoke to so-and-so last time, and that continuity is so important. And that's one of the things that we really try to maintain and work
Absolutely. You're very smart. That's very good.
Mark, it was very informative. Like I say, I'm a rabbi, but I am a citizen and I care about our community, and that we very much appreciate that you being on the Jewish View and telling our viewers what good government should be and what it's all about. Thank you very much. Continue your good work with a lot of success and good health.
And
Thanks,
thank you
Gerry.
very much, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.